Joe said, "I'm going to marry my girlfriend, so let's get a divorce. And there will be no division of property. Just pack up and leave," my mother-in-law said, in her usual way of tormenting me. "And my father-in-law has fallen for a stripper. I don't want to live with you all. I will do as you wish, and leave. But before I do, I'll show you a thing or two. My name is Emily." Looking back, I realize that for the most part, my 50 years haven't been all that happy. However, my current days are so joyful that I can laugh and talk about the past. This story dates back to when I was 35. At that time, I was about to celebrate my 10th wedding anniversary with my husband, Joe. We were childless, and it was somewhat painful to be constantly asked by people around us, "Do you have children?" or to hear them say, "Children are such a joy." Conversations with Joe also dwindled, rather, they had reduced ever since he got promoted a few years back and became busier with work. Going on many business trips. Since I was working too, we saw each other even less. No wonder we didn't have any kids. Well, that's one form of marriage. It's easier this way. It doesn't matter whether we have children or not. That's what I thought, but one day, our family unexpectedly grew in a way we never could have imagined. The newcomers were not angelic babies, but rather in-laws who were more like demons from hell. Ever since we got married, it seems the in-laws had said to Joe many times, "We want to live with you." Joe weighed the hassle of living together against the hassle of continually refusing them. He concluded that living together was the lesser of two hassles. Unexpectedly rational, or not. Hold on. I didn't give the okay for this living arrangement. According to Joe, I'm hardly ever home anyway, so it might be alright. That might be fine for you, but still, as Joe says, it's fine with me. That is, if the in-laws were nice people. I had disliked these in-laws even before we started living together. They were the main ones who kept nagging me, asking, "Don't you have kids yet?" Every time we met, my mother-in-law, Mary, would say, "The more children you have, the better. You only had Joe, didn't you?" Living with such in-laws, it's a nauseating proposition. What will become of this living arrangement? My expectations were immediately betrayed. Not in a good way. But rather, it turned out even worse than I had anticipated. Upon starting to live with us, my father-in-law, Robert, solemnly declared, "We won't be giving you any of our pension or living expenses." Following that, Mary said with a smile, "Let's proceed in that direction, shall we?" What direction is that, exactly? Even Joe said, "Since we both work, we can manage without receiving any living expenses from them." Are you on their side too? Until now, I had never really had any complaints about Joe. Well, I never really expected much from a husband to begin with. As long as he didn't get angry quickly and was a hard worker, that was fine by me. But now, a whole host of new grievances arrived all at once. Furthermore, after living with the in-laws for a while, the true reason they wanted to live with us gradually became clear. At night, Robert frequently goes out. I used to believe it was to drink with friends, but among the laundry, I found a membership card for a nightclub and a business card with Ashley written on it. Nightclubs come in various forms, but this one clearly caters directly to men's desires. So, Ashley is his favorite, huh? He's surprisingly spry for his age. I thought to myself. Of course, I meant that in a bad way. No wonder he can't contribute to the living expenses. He's spending it all on Ashley. It's okay, it can't be helped, right? No way, it's okay. On Mary's side, she gradually began to torment me more and more. She was cunning about it, slowly ramping up the torment to the point where I hardly noticed it at first. I thought she was being kind initially. I could have tolerated it if it was just about how I fold the laundry or season the food, but then Mary would sometimes call me by Joe's ex-girlfriend's name. Every time, she would say, she was the first girlfriend he introduced to me, so I have a strong impression. It's not on purpose. I'm sorry. Anne would apologize. At first, I thought maybe it's because she's getting older, but when it kept happening, I realized something was off. Come to think of it, the bathtub was always dirty when it was my turn to bathe. I thought it was the dirt from Joe and others who bathed before me. But since no one complained about the dirty bathtub, it was probably done by Mary, who bathed before me. There was also the time when she thought everyone had finished bathing on a snowy day and turned off the water heater. So my shower was freezing cold. Or the time my favorite necklace went missing after she took it out of the dresser without permission. Every time, she would come apologizing, it wasn't on purpose. I'm just a bit careless, sorry. But while turning off the water heater might be overlooked as carelessness, taking jewelry without permission certainly can't. I began to faintly sense that this might be deliberate harassment. When I saw Mary complaining at the dinner table, it's because of Emily's late return that my dinner got delayed. I belatedly realized it was indeed harassment. Come to think of it, she hasn't done any housework since she came to our house. She would toss clothes inside out into the laundry and throw recyclable plastic bottles in the trash, adding slightly more work each time. She would scream if the meal was late or if the sheets were wrinkled, and at worst, she would throw things. I finally understood. We indeed had a baby come to our house. 2 big, mean ones. Tired from my job as a caretaker, I just wanted to get away as soon as possible and go to bed, that was all I wanted. So I kept silently doing what Mary asked. I didn't have the energy to argue with anyone when I got home. I wanted to rest my body as soon as possible, every second mattered. Tired as I was, it took me a while to notice, but it seemed Mary knew about Robert's nights out. When an actress appeared on TV, Mary would repeatedly ask him, "You like this type of girl, don't you?" "You do, right?" The actress's name was Ashley. The same name as the girl from the club. Robert looked pale. I asked Mary once about it. "Aren't you bothered by Robert's outings?" She replied, "If we got divorced, I'd be a divorcee at this age. That would be miserable, and it wouldn't look good, right?" Of course, I hate it. But he's probably just playing with professionals in those places, right? If it's not serious, I can deal with it. It wasn't because she cared about Robert but because she feared the social stigma of becoming a divorcee. I can't understand it, but turning a blind eye to infidelity must be incredibly stressful. And Mary's outlet for stress was harassing me. By harassing me, she could not only relieve stress but also avoid doing any housework. It was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I was convinced. This was the background against which Mary had insisted on living with Joe. Since living with the in-laws, Joe has found more and more excuses, like overtime, to not come home. This house is rotten from the foundation to the pillars. If things continue this way, I might end up being crushed under these decayed floor joists. One day, about half a year after we started living together. It was a rare coincidence that we both were off from work. Joe suddenly said, "Let's get a divorce." It came like a bolt out of the blue. He had been having an affair with a former classmate for a long time. I didn't even know about her and he said he wanted to marry her. It turns out, their relationship started just before he got promoted. I thought he was working hard for my sake, but could it have been for his classmate? Was it my fault for not paying closer attention to Joe's behavior, using my tiredness as an excuse? I thought affairs were something you only saw on TV or with Robert. No, maybe it's natural for the son to do the same as his father. This house will be for her and me once everything is in place, so you just take your personal belongings and leave, Joe said. When Joe said this, Mary asked, "What about us?" "She's fine with you living together, so you can stay," he replied. "She's a good girl." "Emily, don't you even try to divide assets. This house and everything in it will continue to be used by us." Wow, she really is a good girl. If she's cuter than Emily, then there's nothing more I could ask for. Mary, reacting to Robert's words, glared at him as if to say, "You always do this when you see a woman." But Joe and his father just laughed out loud. "These people are beyond help." I responded, "I understand. I don't mind the divorce. There's a family memorial service soon at our hometown, right? Could you wait until then?" "What, are you planning to feast at the memorial service?" "How shameful. I wouldn't bring a woman I'm divorcing." "Just get out already. Who's the shameful one here?" As if I'm worried about the food. Despite everything, it seems Mary and I, the only 2 women here who have been cheated on, can't get along at all. No, I was thinking of moving out on that day. Going to the memorial is a bit embarrassing since I was cheated on. It'll take some time to find a new place and handle the paperwork. I thought the timing might be good to work things out. To my surprise, it wasn't Mary but Joe who replied in a condescending manner, "If that's the case, then it's fine." As if he has any right to act superior after cheating. Don't underestimate me. I'll destroy everything. A week passed, and the day for payback had finally arrived. That day, the in-laws and Joe left home early in the morning to attend the memorial service in the countryside. They planned to return at night. All right then. Shall we get started? The garbage collection service I had arranged for arrived. I had them take everything from the house, from furniture to gadgets, and load it onto their truck. The sofa, right? The microwave, right? Joe and the in-laws' beds, and the clothes Mary had accumulated since moving in, they wouldn't need those either. Joe's favorite latest model vacuum cleaner, gone. The refrigerator, with everything inside, gone. From appliances to junk, everything was tossed out. Decluttering is the best. Every time something was thrown away, I felt refreshed. Next, the movers came to take my important belongings to my new place. By the evening, the house was empty. I heard the sound of the front door keys jangling. It seems Joe and his parents have returned. I decided to greet them as a good wife one last time, so I stood at the entrance with a bright smile. "What, you're still here?" Joe grimaced openly. The in-laws felt the same. "Oh, how terrible. Since this is the last time, it would be nice to see your face before leaving, right?" "I wanted to see your face." "What? You still have feelings for me?" Joe blushed slightly. "Humph. What the heck? Fine, want to have a meal together one last time?" Joe, strangely in a good mood, said this as he took off his shoes and headed to the living room. "Joe is so naive," sighed Mary, looking exasperated. "As for Robert, that's my boy," he said, giving me a smug look. "Makes no sense. Meals, huh? It would have been a nice way to part if there was anything to eat." "What the, what?" Joe, having grasped the meaning of my words, let out an inarticulate cry as he looked at the living room. "What's the matter, you're being noisy?" Mary peeked into the living room following Joe. And just like Joe, she also screamed, "What?" Robert reacted the same way. "Wait, Emily, why, the fridge, no, even the furniture and appliances. Why is there nothing anywhere?" "Of course, I threw them out. The house looks bigger now, doesn't it? I thought it would be bad to leave the old furniture for your new life with her. Consider it a final favor. You threw them out. Why? Weren't you just preparing to move out? The move is already done. When you move, you throw out what you don't need, right? Have you forgotten? Most of the things we bought when we got married were paid for by me. It's not wrong for me to throw them away. I don't need them anymore." Joe pointed at me, his mouth opening and closing without any words coming out. He seemed too shocked to speak. "I'll consider this an even division of assets. Not that there's much to divide, anyway." Smiling, I watched as Mary exploded in anger. "How could you do this? I'll return those words to your idiot son. It's outrageous to engage in infidelity while having a wife and then tell her to leave because he's remarrying. Perhaps it's your upbringing that's at fault? How dare you speak to your mother-in-law like that? What a terrible wife I ended up with. Do you still consider yourself my mother-in-law? To me, you're just some old lady." Watching me speak with a grin, Mary muttered, "Such an unlovable woman," and trembled with anger. I couldn't help but find this a bit amusing, but that's a secret. After all, haven't you forgotten? If I demanded a division of assets for this house, you can't refuse. What will happen if you lose the house? Where will you old strangers live? Didn't you sell your own house when you moved in here? Indeed, the in-laws had sold their own house when they decided to roll into ours. They had said, "We probably won't be going back." That's why they absolutely needed this house. They probably sided with the mistress over the wife because, as long as there's a house with a maid, anything goes. Panicking at my words, Robert tried to mediate. Well, let's calm down. Yes, you're right, old man. I mean, Robert. Let's keep it calm. That's right. You understand, Emily. Of course. By the way, Robert, wasn't your phone broken today? Oh.
Yeah.
I noticed when I left the house that it wouldn't turn on. If charging it doesn't work, I guess I'll have to go to the store. No need for that. Your phone is right here with me. Saying that, I took Robert's phone out of my pocket. What? 2 identical phones? What does that mean? He asked, confused. Right before you left today, I swapped your phone. The one I have is the real one. And the one you had is a used one I bought and just removed the battery from. That's why it won't turn on. Huh? I thought you'd easily give up thinking it was broken or battery dead since you're not good with technology. Looks like it was a big success. Robert asked, why would you do such a thing? Smiling, I answered, what do you think? No idea, really. By the way, you received a mail from your beloved Ashley today saying she had a great time the other day. You email her every day, don't you? It's so nice to see how close you are, it almost makes me jealous. Huh? With an inarticulate cry, Robert was taken aback, while Mary glared at him fiercely. Robert, I heard you went out to have fun with Ashley recently. Wow, you two are so lovey-dovey. But, if you're going to cheat, you might want to put a lock on your phone. It's so easy to get caught. Stop it, Emily, this. But I've come to think that cheating isn't good. Being cheated on by Joe, it was hard for me too. I deeply understand how Mary feels. So, as my last good deed, I sent Ashley a message saying I'm tired of this. Let's break up. Ashley was furious. She said, I was only dealing with an old man because he was a cash cow, don't you dare mess with me. You're lucky to have broken up safely. Oh. By the way, Mary, this is Ashley. Make sure to take a good look at your enemy. Saying this, I showed everyone a photo of Robert with Ashley while returning his phone. That's when it happened. Joe showed an expression I had never seen before. Wait, why? That's my girlfriend. What? At Joe's confession, everyone but Joe gasped. What do you mean? Joe, what are you to Ashley? No, that's my line, Dad. Why are you taking photos with Ashley? It's obvious, because I'm her boyfriend. No, Ashley is my girlfriend. I thought your girlfriend was your classmate. We just happened to meet at the shop, and it went from there. Never did I expect a father and son to have the same woman as their lover, a surprising twist even for me. Ignoring the dumbfounded Mary and me, the men engaged in a futile argument over who deserved Ashley more, eventually escalating into a brawl. Pulling each other's hair. Afterward, the brawl ended when Joe accidentally pulled out a significant amount of the father-in-law's precious remaining hair. After glancing at the soulless face of Robert, I declared loudly, well then, I'll be heading to my new place now. Thank you for everything. I'll be requesting division of assets next time.
Bye.
I said I'd let the property division slide, but I changed my mind. Mary, having realized the seriousness of the affair, swung her bag around in anger, beating Robert. Joe, overwhelmed by the rapid succession of events or perhaps utterly defeated, slumped down on the spot. As I witnessed this hellish scene, I couldn't help but smirk as I mounted my scooter and rode off. Though not even close to resembling him, in my mind, I felt just like Tom Cruise in Top Gun. It's been a while since I felt so refreshed riding down the night road. Fantastic. Later on, when I filed for divorce with division of assets, Joe pleaded, please wait with the divorce. It turned out the in-laws were considering divorce too, and with the potential loss of a place to live for everyone and the changing circumstances. They wanted to hold on to as much money as possible. They said various things like, don't you feel sorry for us, having lived together once and now being homeless, and, we need money right now. But I had no sympathy and proceeded with the divorce without discussion, securing as much money as possible from Joe. I felt a bit like a bandit, but I hadn't done anything wrong. It was merely what I deserved. Well, maybe messing with someone's phone was a bit bad. Eventually, around the same time as our divorce, Mary also divorced Robert. Apparently, Robert's affair with Ashley had been going on for over 5 years, and Mary couldn't forgive the private relationship. I don't quite understand the logic of tolerating visits to the shop but not private relationships, but I guess there are all kinds of marriages. Well, they're not a couple anymore anyway. Robert faced claim of assets from Mary and Joe from me. It is the inevitable conclusion that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. The family is now scattered and separated. Mary, having been cheated on by Robert, grew to despise men in general and consequently despised Joe for similarly discarding me through cheating. As a result, Joe and Mary have become estranged since her divorce, only speaking when necessary. Robert was jobless and sought help from Joe, but was rejected because Joe himself was barely scraping by with multiple jobs. Joe is juggling jobs. Mary, who had been a housewife since marrying young, took up her first job ever as a part-timer. Robert finally found a job and worked night hours. As for Joe, who was all set to remarry Ashley, it turned out she had no such intentions. Ashley saw both Joe and Robert merely as sources of income, an extension of her job. Additionally, it was revealed that Ashley had other men like Joe and his father in her life. Joe, having known her since their school days, had convinced himself that she was truly serious about him, his destined partner. But when all was said and done, it turned out to be a ridiculously petty and foolish story. Ultimately, both men were deemed too much trouble, even as cash cows, and were discarded by Ashley. For me, aiming to break everything on my way out, as I had planned. Seeing such a spectacular collapse of their family life, far beyond what I had aimed for, left me extremely satisfied. No one in that family truly valued anyone but themselves, so this outcome was perhaps inevitable. In essence, it was a family in form only, lacking any real compassion. I am now relieved to have left that household. As for me, while my days are still exhausting due to work, living alone has freed me from having to allocate time for someone else, giving me more freedom than when I was married. I've been able to travel with old friends from my student days, whom I couldn't see often while married, and even find time for my hobbies. Having been in a choir during my student years, I've picked up again on singing, and it turns out, you can still get better at music, even with age. I consistently win at the local competitions, even earning some prize money. Thanks to that, my wallet is always heavy. At my workplace, a facility, my colleagues suggested leveraging my musical talent, so we organized a sing-along event, and it was a huge success. Being praised as amazing and making the residents smile with my private hobby was incredibly fulfilling for me. I may not understand the latest songs at all, but I guess I need to study up. My days aren't flashy, but I'm surrounded by kind colleagues, trustworthy friends, and gentle residents who feel like family beyond the boundaries of work. All right. Let's give it our all at work today. I'll do my best to celebrate the residents' birthdays to the fullest.